Hey, DeRacers, we're back to talk about a new event. So this is going to be hopefully very exciting to you because it's very exciting to us. But it's going to talk about how the event works, what to expect, how to register, how the tools are, and what makes this one so special. So just to give a quick teaser of what this is going to kind of look like, is we had done some of our bracket tab or bracket events with teams, and people like that. But what was the challenge with that is we had to create the invites, we had to send those out, we had to have the tools scrape it, we had to do the admin work, we had to check and do. It's 10 times harder for us, if not more, to run these events. So when we saw Dirk Army's most recent season 7 and the automation that they put forth in that, it really got us thinking, how can we make an event similar to that that's even better? Well, not knocking that on our end, how can we make ours better? So
make it our own. We want to make
our
it our
own,
own and do something that merged some of the ideas that we love with that automation element in terms of data scraping and just letting you run races that you would typically run.
Yep. So just to have the quick fun of it, the plan is that you will have down below, you see how we have D2, D3, D4. There's 42 tracks that exist in DeRace. 16 horses are going to go into a bracket royale. So 16 enter and only one wins. So the way that this is going to work is that every single TD will cost 5 Dirk to go into the event, and then the pool will get accumulated, and then the purse goes to the winner. So then you and I were thinking about this, and we're like, okay, how do we avoid stacking? How do we avoid people just limiting to wallets? How like all these things. And what happens if we have more than 16? Is it first come, first serve? And we were realizing that we wanted to make this thing entirely fair. So the way that this is going to work is if we have more than 16 that show up, 16 will get randomly picked. And then of the people that do not get picked, there will be a lottery. And one person of the non-participants is going to win 10% of the purse. 90% of the purse is going to get to the winner of the bracket themselves. So I'm going to kick it off to you to introduce some of the stuff about registering for this event.
Yeah, so essentially what you see on the screen still here right now is a full bracket system. Like Vamp said, there's 16 different horses that are going to get in. But in order to register for this, especially in this first iteration, we're going to try to automate this and make it a little smoother and more expansive in the future. But for now, what we're going to have you do is we're going to have you register for one horse at a time. And the idea here is that we're going to collect your Discord name or your Twitter handle or some way that we can communicate with you. We want to make sure that we get that horse ID and the horse name, and then we're going to have you select the tracks that you'd like to submit your horse for. Now, like you mentioned a minute ago there, Vamp, it's 5 Dirk per track that you select. So we're going to make this easy on you. Let's say you've got a horse in here and you want to run a handful of different dirt tracks, and you're also thinking they can do some long distance synth. And oh, by the way, they can also do long distance turf. And you're like, wow, I got a lot of tracks here. I have no idea how much money I need to send you guys. We built in a calculator. It's going to tell you here that you owe us 45 Dirk. Make sure it's Dirk. Like you said, not USDC, not any other format, no other coin. Make sure it's Dirk. Send that to the wallet here on the form and drop in that transaction hash. And then we're going to show you here why that's so important. Now, you're going to need to do this for each horse. But we actually think that's really a good way to do this because it's going to make you think about what it is that horse can run and how many different tracks you want to enter for. Now, in the event that you want to, down the road, put a horse that you've already registered on additional tracks, just fill out the same form again and add the additional tracks. Our system will handle that automatically. Not an issue. Don't put the same track again because you'll end up having to pay twice. Just make sure that it's any new track that you want to add. And we've actually got a nice registration board that we're going to show you here on how we list out all the horses that have been registered and who's paid and who's not. And I'll throw that back to you, Vamp.
Right on. Okay, so this is why we get really excited by this. Is one of the reasons why we have to have breaks in between events is that it is exhausting on us to build these things, scrape these things, manage these things, do all the admin work when we have family in the other room that are yelling at us to go spend time with them. It's hard to do it. But with this system, we've now made it fully automated. So here is just a brief example. So I want to show with you guys some of the coolness about this. So here, this thing says pending statuses. So we have a bunch of fake transaction hashes, 2 of them that are real. And when we click on scan the transaction hashes, our system is going to go through and check one by one to make sure that the transactions are legitimate. And if they are legitimate, you will see this is going to update the statuses to paid. So we got 2 that are paid, and then the rest is going to say what you owe. So we can see that this one owes 5, owes 25, etc. So as you register, we will make sure that it's valid. And if it's not validated, you'll be able to see, we will reach out to you, but you could also see this yourself and be proactive and make sure that we get it resolved. Once we have it resolved, we could very easily then override this. Everybody else is going to have a view only, so you won't be able to do this, but we can override this. So if we fix the transaction, we could still do the manual work, but the goal is to limit it. Now, once we have all of these things paid, you will start to see a little bit of a heat map of where everybody is registering. Well, everybody that is validated is going to be a confirmed transaction. We have the money into the club wallet. It is legit. So then we can now start to show you this, and I'll kick it back over to you so you can talk about the heat map about this element to give you guys a sense of what's going on.
Yeah, do you mind zooming in a little bit so we can
Sure.
see some of these individual cells? This is pretty cool. What we did is we took a kind of like you said, a heat map of each of the different hippodromes, showing how much prize money is currently in there. Now, for example, on D2 and D3, you're going to see that we have that spectator fund or the spectator prize, and that equates to 10% of the pool in the event that we get over 16 racers. So if you're the 17th registrant, you are guaranteed to get 10% of the prize.
If you're, cool. If you're the spectator.
If you're the spectator, if you're that 17th horse that doesn't get selected to go into the bracket for D2, you would get the full spectator prize. Now, this is showing you also the odds that you could win the spectator prize. And again, that's the number of horses over and above the 16 that were selected. They go into a randomized lottery, essentially, to see if they get that 10% prize. So we're going to show you the odds. We're going to show you the amount. And then we're also highlighting the cells in green that have the largest prize pool. And those in blue are indicating the ones that are a little lower in terms of registrants. So each person can pick kind of their strategy that they want going into this event. Do you want to go after something where the prize pool is massive, but your odds of getting in are smaller? Or do you want to sneak into something where you know that maybe you're the 16th horse and you're guaranteed a spot, but hey, it might be 15 other amazing horses in there and you're guaranteed to go up against those 15. So there's a few different strategies here, but we wanted to make sure that whether you had a good horse or not, your odds of getting in are equal. And your odds of winning in a spectator prize, even if you just pay the 5 dirt for one track and you go into that pool, there's a chance you win something, even if you don't end up running your bracket.
Absolutely. Now, there's some really cool elements about this that we like. We've done classification races, but it's hard to have a bunch of A's. There's a lot of C's in the game or D's. So what's nice about this is that what our system is going to do is that once we have the registrants in there, we can run a randomizer. And what that randomizer is going to do is it's going to look to the registration page. And if you have your horse engaged on a track and you are paid, so you're a verified contributor to it, the system is going to then select 17 horses. So it'll be the 16 plus the 1. So we're going to find 17 that are going to be moving out of the complete loser bracket. So you will see in Dirt 2, for instance, I now have 17 horses. If I switch back to my registration, there were 20 horses that are qualified for it. So 17 were selected at random. Now, let me just zoom myself out again real quick. We wanted to make sure that everything continued to be as fair as possible. So I wanted to show you this as an example. So when I switch over to D2, you'll notice that this whole entire bracket is empty. So if you registered first, we wanted to make sure that you didn't just go into the first spot. Everything is random. So when I go back to my selection, I'm just going to force this script to do a quick update. This is going to go through, and of the 17, it's going to randomly shuffle them and then put them in order. So as I scroll down below, you could see all those horses. So it selected Burra 82-39 first. Next to the name, you'll see that's the perf score. And then down at the very bottom, the 17th horse, which was the spectator, is Super Idol. So in this example, Super Idol does not get to compete in the bracket, but Super idle gets to walk away with 10 Dirk price. Bought in for 5, doesn't race, wins 10 still. Then when we zoom into some of these brackets, if I go in a little bit closer so we can see the details of here, you can now see a randomly shuffled bracket system that puts each of these horses in. So Burra at 4.54 perf, the higher the perf, the faster the horse or the better the horse is. And then you can look down here, Valkyrie 1.98 versus Gamina 5.01. Looks like Valkyrie's probably going to lose in this one. Dominance, a 0 versus an 0.73. Two bad horses. They got lucky. They got put together. So what's cool about this is that in the typical events, horses like Bow and Arrow and Hungry Eyes, the Emperor, they're going to show up and they're going to kick a lot of butt at like Dirt 6. So if you don't feel like you have a horse that's good enough, yours is a C, yours is a D, screw it. Put it in. You might find out that the best horses are, one, not getting to compete. They might have to go head to head against each other, like Bow and Arrow and Riff Raff. Riff Raff hopefully will upset it. And then you'll see that the progression goes on. So there is an element of luck. There's also an element to the horse's ability, but it makes it a lot more fair to everybody. The last thing to point out would be the scoring. You want to go about talking about that?
Yeah, I was gonna. So scoring / data collection, a little bit of a combo here. What I want to be able to point out, and I think we can jump over to like D3. I think you've got some data there. We've been messing around over the last few days trying to pull in data, doing assessments of different horses to see A, that our brackets work, and B, that the data can be collected regularly. We run a back end script for this that allows us to run and get data every 2 hours or so. It periodically grabs from each one. It's going to tell you when you saw the latest race data, when we grabbed the last update. We're going to give you that information so that if you're tracking your horse, you can keep tabs on whether or not it's showing all of your 12 races. The event itself is intended to be approximately 2 weeks. And we don't have the exact date set, but when we have that, you'll have that full period of time to run 12 times on this particular track. Now, some people are going to be paying attention to this, running a few times, and just stopping their horse when they realize they lost in the first bracket. But for
I'm going to add to you real quick. So
yeah,
each stage of the bracket is 3 races. So the reason why you said 12 is if you're not paying attention to this and your horse is winning, you need to run 12 times in total just to make it to the end. We're only going to look at the first 12 naked races. Don't care if it's 1, 2, 3 Dirk or training grounds, naked races of the furlong distance. You're good.
That's absolutely right. And what's cool about that is 3 races is just enough to allow for a luck factor. You can throw a bad race, a couple of bad races, and you could be out, even though you're a good horse. But you, over the course of 12 runs, those better perf score horses should win. But you are only in each bracket. So in this instance, the Seaward and the Trooper are going to be battling against each other, but it's just going to be the first 3 sets of data. So if we scroll down there, I'm not sure if they have any other data. I think Seaward might. So Seaward's done a bunch of races, but the Trooper hasn't. So as the brackets continue, it will fill on each data update, but it will not move the horse to the next bracket until both of them have done their 3. So their set of 3 have to occur before we find out which horse moves to the next bracket. Now, a different bracket, if you go back up, we can look at that second bracket there. And let's say, is that Grodis or Sniper? Let's say they finish their 3 right away and they move on in that second bracket. If they move on, they're just going to be waiting to find out who they play on the Seaward and the Trooper. But the Grodis and Sniper horses can continue to run. They don't need to wait. You can just automatically do your 4th, 5th, and 6th races. Our data will automatically update. The system bracket will automatically update when those races occur.
Yep. And there's no penalties. So if you run 15, realistically, you should be enrolling for tracks that you normally run. You don't even have to think about it then. And you might just find out that your horse running in the background may win a big purse for you. So this is just another opportunity for you. There's 42 TDs here. So if you want to, you could register a new horse, do all 42, train it, and see if you get lucky. If you hit on a couple of those, you might win a purse that's going to offset everything for you.
That's absolutely right. There's a lot of different strategies to what you might want to do in this event. In terms of like who you're pairing up against, you'll have no idea because registration is open and then gets closed prior to selection. So we won't be pre-selecting any of the horses ahead of time. You have no idea who's going in. It will be random, and you hope that you end up in a bracket arm here with some horses that you can actually compete against. But we've done some trials of this, and the data is really incredibly fascinating to me. We saw, I think, in one of our trials on Dirt Twos, the entire right hand side of the bracket was all upsets in the
Mm-hmm.
first round. Like moving on from one round to the next. Like I said, that the 3 races per horse is such a small number that you can see a horse get kicked pretty quick that probably shouldn't have.
Yep. So what we're really excited about this, guys, is so as you register again right now, one horse at a time, we'll most likely be modifying this. We've just put in so many hours. Like if I go back to like my script, you can see how many different programs that I have, different triggers. Everything is just constantly scanning around, doing a lot. So there's a lot of work that went in the back end. We have been battle testing it this week. We've been running it overnight just to make sure that the updates are all happening automatically. The only thing that we have to do is set the start date and the end date of the event, and then to engage the buttons to go ahead and process everything once. The rest of it's fully automated. So this is essentially a tournament system that exists in DeRace, but it's processed externally.
Yep.
So as this thing continues, we'll take your feedback, we'll make adjustments. But our hope is that if you guys can knock out your races quickly, this can turn into 2 times a month or 3-4 times a month. It all comes
Yeah.
down to how fast the races are. We finally can start knocking these things out. It could run in the background of Dirk Army events. They could go at the same time if we need to, because
Yep.
ultimately we just simply need to know your first 12 races, and then you're good.
So this bracket royale, this is the, I don't know if we call this the beta run of the bracket royale or if it's the official first bracket royale. But the point is we're going to open up registration for probably about a week and then have the event run 2 weeks. And that's the hope, give or take a day or so. We'll let you know the specifics when we release this video with additional information. The In the future, like you mentioned, to be able to do it twice a month, the goal would be to maybe lock down registration to a 5-day period and have the event run for 10 days. And we still think that running 10 races, I mean, some people with bots and whatnot could probably knock out their 12 races in a day or two. But for some people that are doing it manually, being able to pick and choose when you show up and run your tracks allows you that capability over the course of a week and a half to 2 weeks. So that's the goal. We want to make it, not feel super rushed, but at the same time, like try to knock these out and repeat it. And that's why we love the automated element of this.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, hopefully that answers all of your guys' questions on that one. We're going to do some finalized testing. So we're not releasing this video the moment that we're recording it. So we got a little bit more work, but by the time you guys are seeing this, everything should be there. So registration links are down below. Keep in mind, it's our first attempt at this one. There might be some bugs. We're going to do our best to watch this thing very closely. But once this thing works, we should be able to hammer this out regularly. So we appreciate your guys' support on this one. If you see tracks that do not have 16, please add an extra horse. We have not have any fail safes. We're just assuming we're going to easily have 16 on every single TD. So please make sure that that's a reality. Otherwise, you and I are going to have to register a bunch of our horses to extra tracks. But yeah, I think that covers everything on my side.
Yeah, shouldn't be a problem. I think at this point, like we've made the barrier to entry so low at 5 Dirk per track that we're hoping that this is the sort of thing where you're just going to run as many horses as you can. Now, you're going to need to be strategic and not just throw in your garbage horses all the time. But at the same time, we know there's dozens of horses that are good on every track. So we hope to see everybody out there. This is the sort of event that we hope people without bots and with bots can both take part in. And hopefully registration is something that's fairly easy and you'll be able to track everything through this leaderboard and through the brackets that you see here.
All right. And also, if you have not yet done it, if you are new and you've not done these competitions, if you're curious about it, ARM over there, we do have a bot. So it will help with these things just to set it and forget it. You don't need to worry about overshooting. It makes the game a lot more fun. a lot easier to compete and keep those volumes high. All right. But hopefully you guys start registering right away, 5 days. It'll close, and then we're going to kick the campaign off right away. So get moving, figure out your horses, get them in there.